Good afternoon. Today we're looking at our next project, which starts a multi-part assembly project on a flashlight. Now this is a 6-volt lantern battery style flashlight, and you're going to be designing many of the parts that go into this flashlight. The first parts start in chapter 5. And what you have to remember is from this point forward what they're going to do, and they're going to kind of give you a synopsis of how the part gets created and then go into a detailed how to create the part. So you can kind of brush over that synopsis in the beginning of each of the chapter areas, and then you'll get into the meat of how to step by step create the individual parts for the battery. Now, the one thing that I wouldn't skip is pages 5-6 through 5-11, because they have you set up some templates, and these templates will help you in your drawing environment later. But developing these templates, and you'll save these templates and reuse them. And there was some questions earlier about, well, how do I get it to set up this way and that? That's what those early pages in chapter 5 will help you do, is set up those types of templates. From that point forward, page 511 through page 537 has you create the battery, which you're looking at right now on your screen is the battery creation. And a couple of things that I wanted to talk about on each of these components. We'll talk about the battery and the battery plate and the lens reflector, and then the bulb itself. I've got all 4 of them that we're going to talk about. Notice that on the creation process here, I created the body, and then there was a fillet associated with that. I filleted the outside edges. I then had to cut into the top of the battery to create the recess, okay, and then fillet the outer edge of the battery, and that becomes a round over. So not only are you filleting the outside, but you're also filleting the inside, and that's what creates that rounded over look on that battery edge. And then finally, the last thing that you'll create are the terminals. And what's interesting about the terminals is not only the positioning, but you'll also use a taper associated with that extrusion. So you'll draw them out, but they'll be tapering to a smaller diameter. So just as an FYI, there's a lot of little settings that you're going to be using within the features extrusion tools. And so you'll be clicking on different aspects of the feature design tree and the configuration tools. So just be aware that you're going to be clicking in areas that you haven't necessarily worked on before, but that's a good thing. The other thing that you need to remember is it's okay if you mess up the first time. You always have that magic undo button at the top. You can always undo it if it's not right. Just undo it 1 step, 2 steps, and then restart that particular process. Sometimes it's not 100% clear in the textbook of what they're picking or where the arrow is pointing. Be very specific and look at where that arrow is specifically pointing or locating, because that could be a critical component of why it's not working, because you're picking the wrong surface or the wrong edge. And that's exactly what happens on the battery plate. So I'll bring up the drawing of the battery plate, because here's the thing: the battery plate's got tapers all over the place. Not only on the outer edges they're tapered, but the center area is tapered, and it's a thin wall. It's got that round over radius again. And I've created a video, and I've linked the video into the email today on this round over process, because this was not easy. Let me bring up the actual battery itself so you know that it wasn't easy to create. So the battery plate, there we go. So when you look at the battery plate, let's take a look. I started on sketch number 4. That means I had 3 failed sketches prior to that. And again, you can see that it doesn't always go perfect. When you're creating things, you undo it, you delete it, you restart it. That's part of this learning process. So don't feel bad if it doesn't go right the first time all the way through. It didn't go right all the way through on my first time on this battery plate either. This is a challenging product today that you're going to be creating. Lastly, you've got 2 other components that you're going to be creating. The lens reflector. Okay, this is a revolve environment, so you'll actually create a sketch associated with that and then revolve it. Okay, and then you'll be shelling it out to make it a thin wall, so you'll learn the new tool of a shell. And then lastly, you'll be creating the bulb, and the bulb has got a little tricky, has some tricky components, because you've got these particular items, these features, these cuts, okay, that are at specific areas. And what you're going to notice is that, you know, it's a revolve cut. And so those particular items, let's see here. Oh, that was back here. It's an extrude cut. And so you'll be revolving and cutting this particular component. Okay, you're going to be doing a lot of revolves on this. This is all a revolve environment, and there's different sketches that you're going to be working with. So you'll be revolving the body. You'll then be putting a dome on the back. Okay, that's where the switch connects to. You know, and then you'll be creating a sketch for this cut extrude for the lock-in for the bulb itself. And so, you know, and with that sketch, you'll be editing and creating and revolving these different component pieces. So that's this week's projects in a nutshell. You'll be creating other components going forward. I don't have any of those up, but you'll be creating the outside shell of the flashlight, the outer housings. So there's quite a few components that you'll be building from this point forward, and each week it's a tutorial based system. So again, you'll be following along in the book, and remember, the first 5, 6, 7 pages are kind of a quick overview, and it's like you want to get started, and you get started with these 5, 6 pages, but then you actually you figure out that you're not starting in the actual project itself. So look over those initial pages in each of those chapters and then jump in. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.